to the conversation. Africa Update with Lulu Kapu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:42 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406-9126 #Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. Now, at least 730 million youth and adults worldwide lack basic literacy skills, with 4 in 10 children failing to reach minimum reading proficiency. On today's International Literacy Day, governments are being reminded that literacy is a fundamental human right. This year's theme is promoting literacy in the digital era. And to speak to us further on this, we are joined on the line by Zuleika Ghulam, iSchool Africa Disability Inclusion and Accessibility Program Manager. Zuleika, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu and South Africa. Thank you for having me today.
Now, Zuleika, the 2021 Progress in International Reading Literacy Study reveals that more than 8 out of 10 grade 4 learners cannot read for meaning in their home language. Do we know why this is so?
So South Africa is facing a global crisis with regards to our literacy development. And unfortunately, it is due to a lack of various factors, such as the reduction or the lack of early identification, the lack of support in home languages, especially with regards to literacy. And unfortunately, our learners fall behind and they're not identified early enough.
Now, what needs to be done? South Africa ranking the lowest out of 43 participating nations, trailing behind countries such as Egypt and Iran. This is a major concern for the country. Why have we failed?
Unfortunately, it is an area which we have room to do better in and to grow in. We are struggling based on a lot of lack of resources, a lot of lack of training, teacher training, professional development. However, there's a lot of room to close these gaps and to bridge these barriers in South Africa.
Now, what are some of the consequences to this?
Literacy is a predictor of later life success and academic success. If a child cannot comprehend what they are reading, if they cannot communicate via written language, if they cannot communicate and understand basic literacy, it affects our economy, it affects our matric pass rate, and it really affects learners' self-esteem.
Now, let's talk about this year's theme, promoting literacy in the digital era. How could this benefit the issue of literacy?
So this is actually my favorite because this is what we promote and do at iSchool Africa. The move towards a more digital world is where we are going. And that is what we do at iSchool Africa. Moving to digital resources allows inclusive education. It allows home language literacy. It allows learning and teaching to be adapted to the learner's unique learning style. You also have interactive books. You have audio books. It's really a huge transformation in literacy and what we can offer to our learners.
And what sort of responses are you getting as in your space, iSchool Africa? What sort of response are you getting from the digital era?
So iSchool Africa's reading and literacy program has actually seen a 15% increase in literacy rates. And we're seeing learners who are neurodiverse, learners who are dyslexic, learners with hearing difficulties, being able to interact with digital books for the first time. We have accessibility features on iPad like Speak Screen and dictation that function as a reader and a scribe for learners. For the first time, we're seeing learners have this independence to engage with literacy resources, and it is absolutely phenomenal.
And how can adults start learning to read for meaning? Because you find sometimes it's not only the children, but also adults.
Absolutely. These gaps that develop in early childhood do persist to later life. And there's no such thing as not being able to learn. Our adults can have practice, they can have exposure, and exposure is the key. Exposure to literacy resources, exposure to resources in your own language. That just develops you more. There's also many reading groups and libraries, especially digital libraries and resources available for adults.
Now, learning to read in your home language, you find that because in most schools, teaching is done in English, how do we then balance that act?
Yes. So it's always the most beneficial to expose a learner to English as well as their home language. Being able to learn and expose a learner to literacy in their home language gives them a sense of comfort. It gives them a sense of you belong and you are able to learn in both languages, especially when you expose a learner to a story in their home language and then further supplement it with a book in English. We actually have a resource on our iPads called African Storybook, which has literacy and digital books in all the languages of Africa. So our schools read to their learners in their home language and then further augment that comprehension by then reading it to them in English.
Well, Zuleika, it's a very interesting one, and what are you hoping for this International Literacy Day, and what governments need to do?
We really ask for a call to action from governments, from corporates, from stakeholders to get involved and see the huge lack and gap in literacy development in South Africa and be part of transformative educational change. Join NPOs, join iSchool Africa, and really give learners an equitable chance to quality learning and resources in a method which they are able to interact and engage with, such as your digital literacy resources. So this is not something that we should just overlook in South Africa. This is a huge issue. This is a huge barrier to us, and we really need to come together as communities, as South Africans, and make change in literacy.
Well, Zuleika, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you, Lulu.
That's Zuleika Ghulam, iSchool Africa Disability, Inclusion and Accessibility Program Manager, joining us on the line.